I suck at interior design and
Yeah.
like architecture.
Uh-huh.
So I'm like, dude, I need to fucking add something to this wall. Like I need some shit on this wall, bro, because this is not okay.
You don't
That's
like
how I
just
also
the
feel like,
blank wall in the background?
yeah, dude, like something not right about that. I gotta go. Something gotta go here. Yeah. Yeah. So I'm probably gonna take a photo, like AI it, photo of it. Yeah, I gotta freaking work on that for sure.
Is this just in your bedroom or something?
Yeah, at the moment, I was not gonna do it here. I was gonna do it in my living room, but
Hmm.
um, it's preoccupied. So here we are.
Hey, you
So
got to use what works, right?
gotta do what
It's
you gotta
being
do.
resourceful. That's what we do as entrepreneurs.
100%. So here we are, man. But it's good to see you. How have you been?
Pretty good. Past few days have been not bad, but just like I said over the text, been dealing with kind of like anxiousness, which is I think the reason for it is because um this has like been like the first week where I haven't been surrounding myself with people since my breakup, and I think that absence of other people is what's causing me to really sit with myself and my feelings, and that's what's causing the anxiety for the first time. Is that
Interesting.
just I'm not like I don't usually I have like almost like a distraction by being with people, and by not surrounding myself with people right now, I think that's what's causing those feelings to come up.
Yeah, do you feel like the you being separate from other people is serving you in some type of way? Do you feel like it's helping you?
I think so. I think it's needed because I think you have to become okay being alone. Become comfortable being alone, which I've always thought like I am comfortable being alone and I'm completely okay with that. But it's different when you actually have to do it after not being alone for so long.
Yeah, 100%. And you're
So
fresh out,
yeah, so
like one month
it's
out.
just an adjustment. I really think, and yeah, I believe that's probably where the anxiousness is coming from. I don't know really anywhere else it'd be coming from other than that, and
It's probably a mix of things.
I'm sure, yeah. I mean, life, there's a lot of different things it could be, but I would take a guess and say majority of it is from that. So,
How are your conversations with God? What did your conversations and prayers with God look like recently?
um, a lot of it is just being thankful. Like a lot of times before I go to bed, I forgot where I got this from, but I saw someone talking about how often do we thank God for what we have in our life. So a lot of our prayers, or a lot of my recent prayers, have just been like giving thanks and being grateful for everything I do have, and instead of like asking for things, which I do still ask for things, but instead of like constantly going to him to receive something, just going to him to show gratitude is what I've been really trying to work on.
Yeah. Work on or like you've been doing most?
Well, I've been that's what I've been doing the most. But I feel like personally, like a lot of times what I've done in the past is like I don't know, and I think it's a common tendency that we go to God when we need him versus just not going to him on a consistent basis.
Dude, I just seen a video today. It's my algorithm has changed entirely. So I'm getting super targeted by prophetic words. Like, you just
Hmm.
scroll and everyone's like, this is a message from God. And one guy just today was saying, like, watch where your life will be if you just lock in for 3 months minimum of just having pure consistency of a relationship with God. And watch the character you become, watch the identity you become. And that's actually in alignment with what I've been going through lately because I've also been just recently reincorporating like genuine prayer back into my routine because I had a strong routine and then I lost it. And I lost it because I started feeling more disconnected from God for a couple months. And then I came back to it, and it first started off as like gratitude, like you, and then it started off with like kind of getting back into the Bible again because I used to read it all day, not all day every day, but like very consistently every day, to the point where, I kind of just dreaded it. It got old, you know.
Hmm.
And I started reconnecting with that. And then on top of that too, every morning I'm starting to pray to God, like actually get back on my knees and like pray to him every morning and just fully be thankful, be present, but also ask for his guidance and have like a genuine relationship. And I think that's actually been very serving for me lately. Um, very serving for me. So yeah, I just thought that was interesting because you brought up what you brought up.
Yeah. How do you know when, like, this is just something I'm curious about. How do you know when, like, you're building a relationship with God? Because it's not always something you hear. It's, like, yeah, how do you know?
Dude, that's a good question because you know how when you try to ask God for something and you hear a voice and part of you intuitively feels like it's his, but you have doubt and fear that it's actually not his and it's the other mofo.
See, I always see, for me, more so, I always kind of think it's like my own, like, subconscious talking.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
that's like
Have you
what,
ever have you ever had an experience where it's like it's God 100%, like a message is from him?
once when I was really young, when I
What was
was
that like?
like, well, I was at a church camp. And I just remember I started bawling my eyes out right away. And it was something very intense. And like I just felt like loved and cared for. And yeah, it was like a very overwhelming feeling.
So was it more of like the Holy Spirit coming over you, or was it a genuine like revelation, like a message from God?
Probably the Holy Spirit coming over me.
Yeah, because like for me, I've always had a like conversations with God, and like arguably it's my own subconscious, but one thing is I always found, like, for example, today, this morning. So I asked someone out on a date recently, right? And this is a person that I feel God has put into my life. We're having conversations. And then I prayed this morning. And my morning prayer was, God, lead this relationship, lead my, like, steward me, steward this person. Let us come to like where essentially like let us be guided by you. The moment I stand up from that prayer, I get a text message and it's literally her saying, "Hey, honestly, I've been thinking about it and I am extremely busy. And right now is 100% not the right time for us to go out on this date." And I got that today, the moment I stood up. And I
Hmm.
literally, all I did was I literally stood up and I checked my phone. I checked my phone. And as I'm about to open my phone, I get the notification. And I'm like, and then I sit down with my team and I'm like, all right, team, let's freaking get this day started. And that to me was such important clarity because clarity is all I asked for. And so, like, I know my prayers are being heard. And so I bring that up because that's one of the many testimonials I could say as like God's timing, it's God's timing, it's God's perfect timing. And so, to answer your original question, bro, it was like, for me, I always feel like I have clarity when I hear God's voice, but the devil likes to pretend and act and try to confuse me personally. He likes to always confuse me because he knows I have a relationship to God. So every time I hear God's voice, if I'm too deep in my flesh or my desires or my own wants, my own needs, he likes to confuse God's voice and make me doubt if it's actually what God wants. Like, I was asking God, should I ask this person or should I just let this person? Like, should I stand back? And I got a clear yes, but then I had doubt about it. So I could let that doubt eat me up, or I could be confused about it, but I decided what is God's principles and how I can get a clear answer. And God's principles is fast and pray. And the other principles of what most people go to is they try to go external or they try to go with their own brain. And when they go external, it's like they're scrolling on social media, trying to find an answer from a person. Like, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
And For me, I decided to fast and pray. And I got a very clear yes, because what you want, the answer that you're looking for, is going to come from taking this step forward and like asking this person, right? And so I made the decision to do so. And
So,
then I got a more clear answer after that.
what was your like emotional response when she said that?
So I've been in a lot of relationships. Well, not necessarily a lot of relationships, but I've been in a lot of experiences and I've been in long-term relationships. So for me, when this person did that, it wasn't something where I wasn't prepared for it anymore. You know, when you're like younger and you're growing up and you're first going through life and first going through relationships, like there's like a deep emotional pain behind not getting what you want or not understanding what somebody thinks or whatever. But I've had so many experiences where I've gotten to a point where I know how to let go
Hmm.
in order, because I'm like, okay, if right now is not the right time, but I'm getting a communication line, then I'm not here to overthink. I'm here to understand that right now is not God's time and right now is not the moment to do it. Does that mean like I know that in 2 weeks, then I should try again? Maybe, but I'm going to let that be with God.
Well, does any part of you feel disappointed when you don't get like an answer that you were, I guess, potentially looking for?
I mean, right now, in this moment, I would say no. And I would say I would have been disappointed had I not felt like it was what God wanted.
Hmm.
That's when I 100% would have been like, dang. I could say that, like, okay, my brain's trying to tell me and be like, yeah, sure. You could be like, unfortunately, this is not the way that it is going. But my mental brain pattern is always going to go, well, if God wants this, he's going to let it happen. And honestly, I want the best for what this person wants in their life right now. So it's like my brain pattern is going to think like that. And so it just won't allow me to be disappointed unless I was in a self-sabotaging mindset, which I'm prone to being in when I don't have God first in my life. I'm very prone. Like I'll give you an example. I'm very prone that if I wasn't led with God first in my life, I probably would be listening to subliminally sad music because I grew up with emo alternative rock. So I'd probably be blasting something like that, and I'd be like trying to like take their subliminal messages in, and it would turn totally like warp my brain pattern, as
Hmm.
opposed to me just like communicating with a person. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Instead of being assumptive. So yeah, like that's a good question though.
Yeah, I guess I think a lot of people in that situation, what happens is that they begin to fantasize about the potential relationship. And so when it doesn't actually come
True.
to fruition, then that's where the pain really hits them because they created this whole fantasy and this life with this person or this relationship with this person before it even started, before it even begun. And so it's like
Yeah.
and I think that's like you said with younger guys, that happens a lot because you're just inexperienced and it's like exciting. You have this person that you're attracted to, and then when it doesn't work out, it kind of feels like it's that whole fantasy, that whole made up reality that you came about in your head. It feels like that's all getting ripped away from you.
Is we were just talking about how men, especially the younger gen, yeah, a lot of them have this fantasy that they like to incorporate within the relationship that they build out in their mind. So it's like almost like they build out that fake reality so that when it doesn't go that way, they get disappointed or they self-sabotage, right? Um, and
What
that's
would
actually,
I
yeah,
guess sorry to cut you off, but what would be an instance of someone self-sabotaging after that?
like dude, that's where people start falling into some form of a desire for pleasure. So they're either going to go straight to their drugs, they're going to go straight to their alcohol, they're going to go straight to their porn or lust, they're going to go straight into something that they're like ashamed to do or
Hmm.
potentially that they know is not the right next step to heal or reflect, just for distraction purposes. Like that's what a form of self-sabotage is to me. Like that is like, oh, if I don't get what I want, I'm gonna smoke even more weed to get as high as possible today. Or I'm gonna listen to a lot of like my favorite music that I grew up with, but I'm gonna listen to it in a way where it breeds me to like subliminally feel sad and worse about my situation.
Hmm.
Like that is what I'm talking about. And what I was going to extend on that too, though, was I was going to extend and mention that it's not just common in young men or younger boys. That's also been a thing in older men in an older generation where they have so many relationships that they're attracting very toxic women. And it's usually because they're not working hard on themselves and they do everything else they work on in life.
Hmm.
So that fact of them attracting consistent flows of toxic women into their life, um, and the moment that they get something that they feel like could be a dream, a reality, it's still the same thing. They're still fantasizing in hopes and prayers, fingers crossed, that it will turn into something. And then when they don't get what they want, we all know what happens then. Right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, no, I mean, I've done that in the past for sure. Like especially when I was younger. I would again, I think it's just because it's something new and exciting and you I think a lot of it for me probably was like, God, this is gonna like stem into like some sort of childhood trauma or something. But I think a lot of times when I was younger, I felt lonely, even though I had a crowd of people who supported me, but I still felt lonely. And I want to say that probably happened, and I felt that way because I was left out of certain things as a child, um, with like my core group of friends. Sometimes I would just feel like I wasn't like being involved as much as like everyone else was. And I want to say that's probably what led me later on in life to feel like lonely, even though I had a ton of people who loved and cared about me.
yeah, loneliness is a huge factor for sure, us in men, 100%. But I guess my question for you is, what do you feel like you worked on? What do you feel like you acknowledged or a lesson that you gained from those experiences that's helped you improve and like understand more of the reality to life and how to actually operate in a relationship now?
That was a big question. Um, I'd say when it comes to like just operating in life, is that understanding that you aren't actually alone. And I think that's the hardest part for a lot of people is as lonely as it feels, there is people out there who do care about you. People out there who want to see you be successful
Mm,
and people out there who will show up for you on a consistent basis. But it's us, I think a lot of times we hold ourselves back by not communicating our emotions and communicating how we feel to the people closest to us because we're scared of being judged or scared of being vulnerable, which is tough. It is very tough being vulnerable with people because you're allowing yourself to potentially get hurt. But if being vulnerable is what you need to do to prevent yourself from causing more harm, then I think night and day that's the solution.
interesting. Okay. Um, sweet. Yeah, I agree with that a lot. Um, I guess I'm also curious to hear because like the number one thing I feel like that would serve a lot of people who listen to this is, a lot of people might be going through that experience and they're just very misguided or they're listening to the wrong direction, right? So I'm glad that we acknowledge like common patterns of what people do when things go south or things don't go their way. But I guess what frame of mind would you want somebody watching to understand? Like, what frame of mind would you want to serve somebody with to approach these types of relationships or even approach their own identity so that as they move forward in life in this aspect, they're able to grow in a positive way?
I would say the best frame of mind that you have to be in is have an open mind and be willing to accept your own your own pitfalls and understand that you aren't perfect
Mm.
and be willing to grow because a lot of people I think are stuck in this negative pattern and negative thought loop and that's what's holding them because they are so down on themselves and aren't willing to even accept that there is hope for a better future, hope to feel better. And I think when you put yourself in a frame of mind acknowledging that you could live a exponentially happier and way more fulfilling life if you allow yourself. But I think a lot of us aren't allowing ourselves to do that. We are our own biggest enemy when it comes to like our mental health. I truly believe that.
Hmm. Why do you feel like that is?
Because it's easy to, like you said earlier, self-sabotage. And like a lot of it comes to like negative self-talk, how we talk to ourselves. And that's all our thoughts. Like when you really sit back and acknowledge what your thoughts are on a day-to-day basis, how much of it is actually positive for a lot of people who are in this depressed state? Probably not
Low.
very, yeah, probably very little of your thoughts are going to be positive or self-reinforcing, or in positive in a self-reinforcing way. A lot of your thoughts are probably going to be negative, and those negative thoughts are just going to reinforce your beliefs that you aren't enough or however you are feeling. So you have to be intentional with how you're thinking.
Hmm. So I guess if you were to make it tangible for somebody when they have like a an actual understanding, like a mental framework when it comes to something like that, what advice would you give to that person?
If you catch yourself in a negative thought loop, acknowledge it and realize that you are not your thoughts. Your thoughts come and go. You have thousands of thoughts every day. Those thoughts are not you. And then I would challenge you to think of positives about yourself. What do you love about yourself? Find something that maybe you've been complimented on, or something that you genuinely think that you might be different than others, and something that you can appreciate yourself for. And think about that. And just really try to acknowledge when you do have those negative thought loops, and just call them out and realize that your thoughts are not you.
That's huge. That is a good one. That is a good one right there. Yep. Okay. I like that a lot, man. Um, yeah, I think it's important to understand that as well. Like it's important to understand that like who you are as an individual. The quote I like to tell people is this: it's believing, believing, believing. You will be living what you believe in, even though you will be lying. So everything you tell yourself is a lie. Whether you tell yourself you're the greatest in the world, it's a lie. And whether you tell yourself you're the worst in the world, it's a lie. So the idea behind it is, would you rather tell yourself lies that serve you, or would you rather tell yourself lies that hurt you? And I agree with you. A lot of people go through life because they're reinforced by feedback from not just their internal self-talk, but also the way that they grew up, right? A lot of people will go and have situations with parents or family who are dealing with their own internal struggles themselves at an adult age. So as they're raising up a younger kid, a lot of it can also flow into that person, right? And so at a young age, we already learn negative self-talk, I feel. And my experience was a little bit different because I grew up a lot playing outside by myself. So my parents, since they were working a lot, they were not really home that much, right? And so they were working to pay our bills. They weren't really home. And me being outside playing alone by myself or playing with just my siblings, it was always like a cultivation of like competition and fun. And then when I was by myself, it was I could be whatever I wanted to be. So I was the astronaut, I was the, freaking samurai, I was the firefighter, I was the business owner. Like even as a kid, I was watching YouTubers. So I was like, okay, I want to be a YouTuber. I'm a business owner. I'm gonna be famous. Like, and I would tell myself the best of the best and like superhero status, right? And so I reinforced that growing up. And that's what served me growing up. But I noticed a lot of people may not have that experience. Actually, in middle school, bro, I had a lot of negativity in middle school because I had a lot of family trauma. It was just easy for them to keep me out of it. So I was the youngest in the family. So it didn't capture onto me as soon as it did with everybody else. But I still got to carry a lot of it into my middle school career into my middle school. And during middle school, I felt like I was already coded to be strong. And so when I was talking to all these people, like everyone who was going through, that's where I realized mental health was actually an issue because that's where I started dealing with a lot of friends and people who had so much mental baggage. And one thing about me was I would already tell myself that I can heal faster than them. So if they give their baggage to me, and I help deal and carry that burden with them, I'll be able to self-heal. They don't got to worry about me. And I always told myself like these people can, which is interesting. I wouldn't say it was the healthiest thought process to what I think about now, but I remember that was my experience growing up. And so I guess like the reason why I bring that up is because it's important to help people change trajectory and reinforce. Because even though I had those thought patterns, I still went through trauma. But those thought patterns is what helped serve me to where I am today and why I think in this way. You were gonna
And you
say?
said you said you had that realization in middle school.
I had the technically I had the realization younger, but I had the realization that mental health was an issue in middle school. Like I had a realization because that was around the times where kids were all talking about like, committing seppuku and freaking going crazy at a much harder state, of course.
I feel like that's
Uh,
such an early age to realize that.
Bro,
To be
that's
honest.
I had all my friends, you gotta understand too. Like I came from a background of like when I say I listened to like emo music and whatever, like that's because like that was just the music that we listened to. So then the people I started connecting with ended up just being people who listen to the same music, but we'd listen to it for different reasons.
Hmm.
I listened to it because I loved it. They would listen to it because they loved it, and they also had issues that they coped with it. So I started connecting with like the emo kids of the school. So all my friends were all the kids who were like very much like they were good people and they were fun to hang around with. But outside of that, their self-talk, their self-worth, their family relationships, and then also just digging deep into their minds because I was one of the people they trusted. So I was able to have deep conversations where we can talk very real about their very real experiences. That was where I was getting the true reality of like what people think about. But as a delusional kid, still part of me was like, God put me here for a reason. God gave me this type of mindset that I have for a reason. And so I can do everything in my power to serve all of these people and help them and make sure they put all their burden on me because I can, heal faster than them. That's what I always tell myself. I remember that growing up. So that's how it was, man. It was very interesting.
Yeah, it's crazy like the different dynamic because you also said that you grew up like not necessarily alone, but you played with yourself alone.
Yeah, like I would
Like
be outside. Yeah.
yeah, fuck.
What, Kaya? What? What? What?
Oh, it's just a different, different,
What?
di different dynamics than what I grew up in. Because I feel like as soon as I
Okay.
started growing up, and like as soon as I like got thrown into school, or even before that, dude, I was hanging out with like a huge group full of friends, and it's a completely different dynamic than what I grew up in, and I think that's what led to the loneliness later on in life is that when that group of friends was no longer there, that's all I had known. So without that, that led me to feeling that emphasized the loneliness. Versus for you, you kind of grew up without that, and so you didn't have a huge group of friends that you were constantly with. Like I was, when I say a group of friends, I'm talking about like 6 to 10 people that would come to my house and play sports every day, pretty much from kindergarten all the way up until like high school, every day.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it is a different come up.
and when you graduate high school, you're not hanging out with your friends every day because you have work, you have all these responsibilities, and it just I think that's where the difference lies is, and that's like a big part of that. And I honestly like being completely honest, like I still struggle with that at times, being feeling lonely and feeling like not necessarily empty because like at this point in life, I know that I have so many people who love and care about me.
Yeah.
And I think the hardest part for me is a lot of times I don't feel like there's very many people I can connect to on a more like brainwave wise. Um, because like a lot of my friends, I love them and care about them deeply, but was just interested in different things, and there's only a few people I can like really get deep with. And I feel like it's hard for people to understand the way I think, which I don't expect people to, but there's only a few small handful of people where I can really feel Like we actually understand like the way we're wired. And
Yeah.
honestly, I think that comes down to a lot of like what people like me and my cousin were talking about this because I think is kind of wired the same way. Where there's people in life who are just okay working like your 9 to 5, and he used an example of he knows so many like bartenders, for example, who are just okay with making not like $40,000 a year, and they still complain about their job, but they're like, what else would I do? And they're just okay doing that the rest of their lives. They're complacent with that. And to me, like that doesn't compute in my head. Like that doesn't make sense whatsoever. I can't
Yeah.
fathom. Like I work a 9 to 5, and I can't imagine doing that my whole entire life. I just doesn't compute in my head how people can do that and be okay with that. And I think that's kind of how majority of society is wired is that they're just go to work, wake up, go to work, come home, relax, repeat. And I think honestly the school system probably plays a big part in that. Just with how the whole school system is, it was kind of originally made to make factory workers. Um, but
Yeah.
yeah, and I think that's where I struggle the most is finding people that can relate to me who want more out of life than something so mundane. And it's hard to find those people.
Yeah. 100%. I relate to that, especially dude, entrepreneurship is lonely, dog. Entrepreneurship is lonely. Even when you're at the top, it's like you kind of start seeing more snakes. So you kind of start seeing like who's really for me and who really has the heart of a compassionate person, and then also who's really just like not necessarily a snake, but they're just not my people.
You know
And
what
you
scares me most about becoming successful is not knowing who I can and can't trust. Because there's a lot of people who are going to come out the woodwork and people that will show up in your life during that time when you achieve some sort of success that
yeah,
wouldn't have been there otherwise. And it's filtering out those people. But obviously I'm not there. So how would I know how to do that? I think it's going to take getting burned a few times in order
yeah,
to learn that. But
yeah.
that's
You
like
feel
one thing that's scary to think about.
would you consider that God would give you the opportunity to become that character who can then figure out who to trust and who not to?
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
100%. Yeah, and I think you're right when you say that it comes from experience. Like it's just going to come from being burned, and it's going to come from volume because the volume is what's going to get you more around the right people that you want. Like volume of us trying to be entrepreneurs is why you and I got in a room together. And that was also it took a long period of time before you and I even started communicating.
Hmm.
Like we were like really both just on our own wavelength, kind of doing our own things. And so, yeah, dude. 100%. And it's an interesting thing when it comes to loneliness in entrepreneurship because once you find your people, it's locked down. It's scary how locked down it is, like family. Um, and it's such a beautiful and thriving experience. And I bring it up too because it's like you have your people, like I have my people who are like the people I grew up with, and they're my brothers. They're the people who go to my wedding. They're the people who be my best men. But I like my relationship to Jesus and their relationship with God is very different. So like they'll bring out the damn worst in me as far as humor goes. Like they'll bring out the worst in me. And it's like so like but I love them to death forever and always, but they're never going to think like entrepreneurs or they're never going to think at the same status as where we think. And that's just because we're all wired differently. And so um, I feel you because it's like whenever I have an issue that's, even deeper than anything, and it usually has to do with business or usually has to do with uh, operating as a leader or something of those natures, it's like you only have such a select few people, if not anybody. And the thing is, bro, in 2025, I had nobody in 2025 because I spent 7 to 8 months disconnected from my business. And in those 7 to 8 months, I wasn't talking to anybody. And even though I was like rebuilding myself, it was still like the most doubtful period of my life because I had nothing that held me down that was solid about business, about being a higher level, about growing. Just had things that grounded me to who I was on my come up, which was beautiful regardless. But My growth in terms of business, it didn't feel like it came at a halt, but it definitely felt like it was shrinking. It was dying. And that is a scary feeling, bro. So that's why I appreciate you because, one thing that I notice a lot of people don't do is they just don't reach out and they don't connect. You know how many multimillionaires and billionaires, I have one billionaire, but multimillionaires I have on my phone contacts that I can actually send a text and they would actually respond, or I can give a phone call and they would pick up. Like, I have a lot of people, and I'm sure you also have your select group of people. It's just we don't reach out because we're not like
Hmm.
tapped in, or we feel like we're invading a circle or whatever it may be. But like, that's why I say I appreciate you because we got into a point where it's like you and I can reach out and we communicate, and there's a tight line there. That's why I always tell everybody who I start getting really tight lines with, I say keep the line. Like even if we have a break, the line will still stay tight whenever you hit me up. If we don't talk for 6 months and you're like, hey bro, I'm in California, I'm gonna respond. I'm gonna be like, dude, I'm here. Like, let's get it.
Hmm.
So I appreciate that because I think it's super important to keep collective of your brotherhood, but it's also like you're never gonna want to give up entrepreneurship anyway. So you're always gonna be battling it, always trying to go for your dreams and your goals. So it's like you regardless, with or without people, you're always gonna keep pushing the masses until you find your group.
Yeah. No, relationships are one of the most important things in this life. And I think that you should place a high value on the people you care about. And I think it's
Yeah.
super important to check in with those you love. Because not only like
Yes.
to just build that relationship, but just check in out of genuine care for this person to make sure they're doing okay.
Yeah. 100%.
And
100.
I think about times where like I've had people reach out to me and how much like that mattered or how much I needed it at certain times. And you never know what your friends or family are going through. So just a simple text or calling them for 30 seconds just to call them and say I love you, like or just ask how they're doing. I think that little gesture goes a long way.
Yeah, that's another thing too, though, which is honestly advice no one's going to talk about. Is I also think it's important to let dead relationships stay dead in the aspect of there. For example, I have family members who are trying to force two different people to come together because it's quote unquote blood, and despite the trauma or pain or problems, and I'm not saying like they're not facing it, I'm just saying like the relationship is already gone and these people are happier without having these other people in their life, and it's clear. And so like I actually agree too with what you said, but I also agree with them on their aspect of if I have somebody who's deeply close to me, but it's like I have to cut off, I'm going to accept cutting them off and accept the fact that I'm never going to have a communication line with that person ever again.
Hmm.
I think that's important to acknowledge because a lot of people will force things into their life. Um, I think it is important to acknowledge. Jesus had relationships with people and he said, come and follow me. And he was there for everybody. He loved everybody, but he also had boundaries. He would
That's
set
what I
boundaries
was
and
gonna
say,
say right there. I
yeah,
think you need to set strict boundaries to maintain your own peace, as hard as it can be
yeah,
sometimes. But if you don't want to cause yourself unnecessary stress, sometimes you need to cut off the people that hurt the most to cut off.
yeah, 100%. 100%. Speaking of stress, I'm curious to hear more about the anxiety topic that you had wanted to
Yeah,
speak on.
working through anxiousness, which is something that I've currently been dealing with and working through. And this happened, it came up Thursday morning. For those listening, we're filming this on Tuesday, so we're going on about 4 or 5 days. And I woke up with it and it hasn't really gone away. It's gone away in moments. And navigating how to work through it is something that's been difficult, but also you have to use your resources and it's a whole learning curve for me right now. Because I've never really been an anxious person, so I'm not really used to this sort of feeling, but I also know that Anxiety stems. The reason why we have anxiousness to begin with is because back when we were cavemen, whenever it was, or back in the day when their times were a lot rougher, anxiety would come from life or death situations. It's our brain's way of telling us that we have a danger response, that we need to respond to some sort of danger. And so, what I saw and what I've used um, is again, it's one of those little thought loops is ask yourself, am I going to die? The answer is most likely always no. And it's something which is funny.
Yeah,
I actually saw this from Jason Capital back in the day, and it
my
was like
guy.
it was a thought loop that he talked about when it comes to anxiousness. You just ask yourself, "Am I going to die?" And he would use this in the instance of like public speaking, and he would like
Mm.
go look yourself in the mirror and ask yourself that like 10 times, and the answer is always going to be no, almost always. But yeah, it's our nervous system response to feeling like it's in danger. And so sometimes you just have to talk yourself out of it. Um, now
That's
sometimes that
valuable.
yeah, sometimes that doesn't always work. Like I can tell myself that right now, but I still feel that pit in the center of my
Hmm.
chest, and I can't like grab my pen. I can't do anything about that. Like it's my body's emotional response, and I don't know how to make that go away necessarily. I have that right here, right in this moment, and it might be a little bit uncomfortable, but one thing that I have learned to do is not let that stop me from doing the things I want to do and doing the things I love doing. Like I didn't
Yeah,
let I'm still showing up here. I didn't cancel my plans. I'm working through it because I think if you just sit and drown in your sorrow, that's only going to hold you back and not move you forward. And there's so
yeah,
many people that I've seen who have had something negative come in their life or have these negative emotions and they just sit in it and they don't take any action to get out of it. And I'm not saying it's not okay to sit with your feelings and feel all of your emotions deeply. You should absolutely do that at some point.
yeah.
But you got to also have a time limit for it. Like sit, allow yourself to feel what you feel, but don't sit in your sorrow for too long. So, yeah, that's what I've been doing is really just trying to push myself to do things that I've been wanting to do anyways, things that I know have helped me in the past. Like I've been journaling every single day.
Nice.
I've been reading every single day, praying every single day, doing all these things, waking up at the same time, going to bed around the same time every single day. It's building this schedule that helps you have some sort of regularity and going to the gym. I'm trying to get in shape right now, and the best shape I've ever been is what I'm trying to get to. Well, realistically, if I'm being completely
He
honest, I'm
getting
trying.
in shape.
Yeah,
He getting in shape.
if we're being completely honest, I'm trying to get the craziest six pack I've ever had. So that's the goal right now. Now, that's gonna take a while, and a diet, it's so hard because I have a major sweet tooth, and cutting out all those sweets.
Ah,
Oh boy, it's been rough. But
ah,
sometimes you gotta sacrifice the things you love most in life to achieve the goal you want to achieve. Life's all about
100%.
sacrifices.
100%, dude. And like anxiety, bro, like one thing I've noticed, and I mean I'm prone to it too, is the fastest way to shift anxiety is to shift environment and state, and mainly shift your state. Because I could feel like a strong sense of anxiety, but if I just stay in my same room and I don't do anything about it, then that feeling becomes the only sole focus. But if I go and pick up my skateboard and call my friend and say, let's go skate together, then three different things are changing in my state of mind: who I'm speaking to, someone who feels like a safe zone, something that I love doing that feels like it grounds me because I don't have to do anything crazy. I can just like feel free. Like those are also things that like super valuable and helpful.
So I would agree with that, and that's the problem I have with that is that's what I've been doing is I've been constantly surrounding myself with people and doing things I love. And over the past 4 days where this anxiety has come, I have like went out on car rides and I noticed the anxiety leaves, or I've went to my sister's house and I noticed it leaves, but it comes back as soon as I come back home. And so
Yeah.
it's like it can be like a distraction and it works, but I guess my biggest thing is getting through it when there is nothing to distract you.
Yeah, well, and also it makes sense because I mean, dude, you're re-entering every single day an area where there's change,
Hmm.
right? Like you just went through a breakup. So every single time you go and change your environment, it is proven to work, but then you come back to the same place. And so there's not enough like time and separation between that. So that's like kind of puts you in the position where you're like, okay, how can I learn to handle this without having to rely on changing my state or my environment? How can I learn to
Hmm.
sit here and change my state through the area in that I'm currently in now? Because there's a different flow now, right? There's a different
Yeah.
energy and resonance in this home. So
And it's so weird because I feel like I'm in a great mind space. Like I really feel like I
I
have
bet.
a good head on my shoulders right now. And I feel like I got my stuff together. Yet I still feel this way on the inside. And I think there's just that disconnection in my body between like my brain and my heart right now. And I think a lot of that, like you said, has to do with that recent heartbreak. And just trying to navigate it. Because like in my head I know who I am and I know like my character and what I want out of this life and what I can give.
Yeah.
And by knowing that, but not feeling that in here, that disconnect, I think, is what's making me feel this anxiousness, or at least
Yeah.
partially.
100%. I mean, and at the very least, it is a like the way I also always see it, I always say this with God, dude, is like every time God throws a bone at me like this, in terms of like feeling and emotion, I'm always telling myself that this is what is required of me to go through to become the person that I've always wanted to become.
Oh, yeah, that's perfect, dude. I think I want to say I have that written down somewhere.
He's like, boy, he turns the
Uh,
camera
uh,
over and
uh,
it's the exact quote.
I'm trying to look at my whiteboard. Oh, let's see. Hmm, that's so funny, dude.
It's like as
Uh,
I'm speaking it out, it's just manifesting and writing out in real time.
oh yeah. Well, I have like five messages on there. I have the magic you are looking for is in the work you're avoiding.
Mm-hmm.
This will be the story that I will one day tell.
Mm-hmm.
What's the chance of you making $1 million this year if the consequences for not succeeding was the death of everyone you love?
Okay. Okay.
uh,
All right.
the lack of commitment is an insult to those who believe in you.
The
This
lack
is,
of commitment is an insult to those who believe in you.
yeah, it's a Conor McGregor quote.
That is cool.
This is what hard feels like. This is why most people won't make it, but you can.
That's awesome.
I get happier about the harder it is because I know no one else will follow.
Nice.
And you do not rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your habits.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
Valid.
that's what I got on my whiteboard right there.
Bars, 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 bars. And then you just gotta write in the Row
Yeah.
Gallegos quote.
Yeah.
Whatever the hell I just said. Yeah, no,
But
dude,
yeah.
it's so real. I'm glad that you do affirmation quotes and like things like that because dude, journaling, I think I have to credit that shifting my brain pattern from negativity to positivity has been so I have to credit it to journaling because with every word and every sentence of every affirmation, you have to literally intentionally think a new brain pattern. And so I used to journal pages. It started off with like, just bullet points. And then it turned into like I had to work my way up to get to that level. So by just writing every day. And then it started turning to journals and journals and journals. I have like 4 to 5 different books that are all full of like page after page of just recreating thought patterns.
That's hilarious. I just started my fifth journal like 3 days
Yeah.
ago. So I love journaling. It's one of the best ways to go back and self-reflect on your previous self and see the growth. And it's so cool to be able to look back and just read like where you were at a certain time. And I've been journaling since 2016, not consistently, but
Damn.
I have it back all the way to 2016. And I started in class, I want to say my freshman year of high school, and I would just
Uh,
like talk about like what's going on in my life on a day-to-day basis, how I'm feeling, like write down some of my emotions. And like
Crazy.
now as I've grown, like some journals entries are a lot more like philosophical, and some are just more simple, like what's been going on in my life, and there's some that are like really deep, expressing how I'm feeling. And it's just cool because I can look back on. And I had someone over recently who I was really close to in 2022, and it was just
Mhm.
funny because I went back in my journal and read from 2022, and I like would read some of the experiences we had together, and like just looking over those memories and like rehashing those in person. It was just really cool, and it's one of those just things
That
that
is
you
cool.
that you don't that you wouldn't have otherwise.
Yeah, that's super cool. I don't regret it, but I partially regret it. I left all of my journals in the Philippines, so they're all there right now. But dude, I will tell you this, reading my journals from my first like real journal, which was in 2022, like that was like my first full-length journal. Reading that kid and like seeing how he was and how ambitious he was and how like reach for the stars he was versus now is so interesting because like that kid is the kid I serve with my business, right? That kid is the kid I serve because I understand him so well. And I still resonate with who he is because of the dream that he wants. But like the closer I got to God and the closer I got to Jesus, like I guess the more disconnected I felt from that guy. Like I'm not like necessarily disconnected, but it's like I read that and I'm like, I can't like these thought patterns that I felt like did really serve me at this season of my life is no longer my thought patterns. It's a
Hmm.
really, really weird trip because I'm like at a position where it's like, part of me is starting to understand, yeah, God wants me to build a high level business and impact a lot of people. And then that other side of me when I was reading that 2022 version was I knew God wanted me to do it, but I was still operating off of like, faith, but also like fleshly desire.
Hmm.
So I read it and I'm like, like, that kid is like the way he's talking, it's super ambitious, it's still moral and it's still ethical, but it just not now that I have these philosophies on Jesus, it's just so different. I don't know,
Hmm.
man. So interesting.
No, I get that for sure. One thing, a constant theme that I've noticed that's never changed is,
With you?
yeah, with me, is how hard I've always loved, like how much I've always loved. And that's just in general with all my relationships. Like, and that's not dating relationships. I mean, that is as well, but I'm talking about all relationships. And like you see that as a common theme throughout my journal is like talking about my, I don't know, I'm just very compassionate towards people. And
That's a good word.
I feel very deep emotions. I just made a tweet about that yesterday. I was like, is it a gift or a curse to feel so? I mean, I saw a tweet that was remotely similar, and the one that what I tweeted, I don't remember exactly what I said, but the one that I can relate to is it a gift or a curse to feel emotions so deeply? And it's hard to work through because that's another thing where I feel like
It's a gift.
I am a little bit of an outlier because every single thing in my life, every day, I feel like I have such intense emotions about every little thing.
I get you. I
And a
get
lot of times it's hard to work through because it, I don't know. It can be hard, but it can also be the most beautiful thing. And something I'm going to bring that to
Mm.
is after like a week after my breakup, I was laying in my bed and I was just bawling my eyes out. But then I thought to myself, like, I am so grateful to experience this pain because this pain allows me, it shows me that I'm still capable of loving someone this deeply. And
Yeah,
I just thought, I was like, what if I was someone who's just okay after breaking up? Like, this is someone who I thought I was going to potentially marry. What if I was here a week later and I was completely fine and didn't care about this person anymore and didn't have these
yeah,
feelings? I would hate that. That would feel so empty to me. And the fact that I'm still feeling these emotions so deeply it was like this weird feeling of just gratitude and also immense pain. It's just
I get it.
so weird.
I
But
get it.
yeah,
Grief, man,
I'm
that's a different thing.
yeah, yeah. And like now I'm at like a way better spot, but
Yeah.
it's just and it's crazy how time heals really all wounds. And that's um something what we had mentioned earlier is like working past our past, pretty much past traumas, um and in relationships as well as business,
Hmm.
and navigating how to work through those traumas and come out the other side.
Yeah.
And for me, there's different stages of growth, different stages of life when these traumas have happened.
Hmm.
And I think back to my high school self after my high school sweetheart or my high school girlfriend and I broke up. And I think back to how long that took me to get to a clear state of mind and be okay with who I am. And that whole process genuinely took me probably almost a year compared to now. Like that, I needed to go through that hardship then in order to handle this relationship and this hardship now the way I have.
Exactly.
And it took me a year back then to get through it. And it took me 2 weeks to get to a spot where I am now after this relationship to where I know I'm going to be okay. It's not the end of the world. Whereas when my high school self, I thought it was the end of the world for months and months and months, and I didn't think I was going to get through it. I didn't see any possibility of me living a life without this person.
Yep.
And it took so much time and work and just acknowledgement, and like I learned something. Like one thing I did back then that I decided not to do this time is I self isolated for months, for like 2 to 3 months without talking to any of my friends and not opening up to anyone. And I was like, I am not doing that this time. I'm going to surround myself with the people who care about me most and talk about the situation that happened and express myself and my feelings and allow myself to be vulnerable unlike I did when I was younger.
Yeah.
And
Huge.
that allowed me to work through that trauma much faster than I did in the past.
Super, super huge. Yeah, dude. I want to also bring it back when you asked or when you made the quote of if it's a curse or a gift to feel like deep emotions. And it's 100% a gift. It's 100% a gift. And you said it best already, but it's like there are people who are in this world who they are, born with, and you can arguably gifted with, you know, sociopathic, psychopathic behavior, like more so psychopathic behavior. Like they don't have empathy for people. They don't have empathy. They don't know how to feel it. They don't know how to practice it. They don't know it exists. Or maybe they do. They just can't. They have to put their own worldview of it so that they can look normal in society.
Hmm.
Or there are people who are genuinely gifted with that they can't feel it. So call it curse if you want to, but regardless, it's what God decided. And so you have a gift of compassion. And that's like the word of this year for me, bro. It's compassion. I think we both have that same level because we're both very passionate about what we do and what we talk about to the point where we can preach, but we also have a compassion for people that when we look at somebody and like we know we can serve them, we will serve them to the best of our ability with all the love in the world. And that's why I laughed a little bit when you're talking about your younger self because I could just picture you at your age now looking at your younger self at him back then and just being like, oh, buddy, just, hand on the shoulder, just like giving him what he needs. Um, and just like knowing that he's gonna be all right. So,
I think one of the biggest things for me is learning to love the pain,
yeah,
because the pain is beautiful in its own kind of weird twisted way. The pain is beautiful because
yeah,
eh, in this instance it almost signifies the ending of a story, but every ending leads to a new beginning.
yeah.
And ironically, that's very beautiful. And it's learning to just be grateful for the times you had with those people and
Mhm.
be grateful for all the memories you made and not dwell on it. And there's a lot of people who resent their ex partners or ex friends, and I don't think that's a healthy mindset.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
It's better to just look at the good times you guys had and be thankful for those. I mean, acknowledge the bad, acknowledge the negative things that happen, but don't dwell on that. Don't make that become your whole like identity towards this person. It's not
Yeah.
worth it.
Yeah, there's always an equal and opposite force in life. Because, like, dude, I think for you and for me, we can both agree that our brain's just naturally not even going to go that way. Like, if we actually f really physically try to think back or mentally think back on our relationships, all we would think about are the good times. And then even the traumatic times would honestly just be like a trauma block. Like, I just can't even think about it.
Dude, it's crazy. Like I genuinely can't imagine myself really hating someone. Like it's just that doesn't even fire in my brain the thought of hating
'Cause
people. There,
you don't
like
hate yourself.
I've I've disliked people in the past, and like no matter how bad someone has done me, it doesn't matter. Like there's no what does hating them do for me? That serves me in no way whatsoever, except
Yeah,
make me have negative thoughts. And those negative thoughts aren't doing anything good for me.
yeah,
So why would I take the time of day to hate or spew negative energy towards anyone? There's no point. It's useless.
100%. I mean, like I said, dude, you don't hate yourself. That's why. You don't have any reason. You don't give yourself that lack. You were never growing up with that trauma of like being built with that thought pattern where you had to find so many reasons to dislike and hate yourself, which then became projected onto other people.
Hmm.
That's what like a clear pattern of what you notice when people are that direct way. They always have an intrinsic shame within themselves. And it's more of like an act of, a lash out of and an act when they show that they really love themselves, quote unquote, and they hate this person. But then you can tell like where are they at when the doors close and they're in their room alone, right? For you, when the doors close and you're in your room alone, you're giving yourself a pat on the back and saying it's gonna be okay, brother. You know? So and that's the difference, bro. That's the difference as to also why you allow yourself the opportunity to be happy. You allow yourself the opportunity to grow to your dreams, and you allow yourself the opportunity to become the man you always wanted to be. It's because you have that love of God, you have that love for yourself, which allows you to have that love for other people. And that is a healthy mindset. Arguably, if you want to say what's good and bad, you can't technically say whoop de whoop. But no, God makes it very clear what is right and wrong,
Hmm.
what is good and bad. He makes it very clear. And, it's cool too because intrinsically, everyone knows what's actually good and bad. Everyone knows. Everyone has a deep emotional tie into understanding what's right from wrong. So I believe that it also has to do with people who are like psychopaths and sociopaths. I think even them, they have an intrinsic feeling of what's right and wrong, but some people will just go through and just lean toward the pain and the pleasure of that side of the equation anyways. Because we've all been there. We've all been there where we're like been evil to a point to where it was enjoyable because we had lack of knowledge and understanding, right? Even though
So,
deep down we know right and wrong.
I agree. So I just talked about some of my past traumas and how I've worked through it. Have you had any past traumas or had to work work through and heal and navigate through those?
Let me tell you something. Let me tell you. Well, yeah. I mean not just in relationships, but I'm actually so grateful, bro, because this dude loves to put the absolute like when I was younger, every time I found a girl attractive, like when I was growing up, I would find someone attractive and I would get in deep conversation with them and I was always befriend them first before it started turning into a relationship. I grew up with sisters and cousins and like, very feminine energy. So I always knew how to be around women. And so I'd always like friend them first and then see if it went into something. And so I'd always get deep conversations with people. And every time I found a person attractive for like who they were, and like their personality, I always had to like intrinsically be like, there's got to be something. There's got to be a red flag. And there always was. There was always a mental health issue. There was always like a young, beautiful person with trauma, like some sort of like trauma that does not unveil itself until you're like 3, 4 months into conversation, and conversation has always been flowing pretty deep, but then it just gets more and more comforting for them to talk to you. And then it turns into something. And then it's like you're about to start, but then the trauma just kicks in. You're like, damn, damn.
Oh, I've never related to something more, dude.
Yeah. Anyways, so
It's like, and it's, I think this is the part where like one of the downfalls of being a very compassionate person is those are kind of like the people that,
I can
uh,
fix them.
yeah, dude.
She is very beautiful to me. God,
Oh man, it's
gosh.
and the crappy thing about that is you can't fix anyone. They have to do the work themselves. It's
Oh,
like
really?
you 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 can love someone to death. You can do all
Oh,
the right things, but if that person doesn't love themselves and if that person isn't ready for a relationship, it's not going to work out and they're only going to end up
oh wow.
hurting you.
Dude, I mean, oh wow. Thank you God for teaching me that young frick, dude. Like, but that's why I'm so grateful. Because, like, dude, if we didn't go through that at younger ages, we would be nuggets right now in relationships. Like, we would be very like pure nuggetry on how to operate and how to navigate, um, you know, evil women, ungodly women, uh, women who have some red flags but just aren't our cup of tea, uh things like that. Like we would have trouble, not necessarily trouble, but inexperience
Mhm.
navigating it. And then any type of heartbreak, any type of pain as an adult will hit different than the heartbreak and pain as a child. Like it'll hit different. There's like, I don't know why, but as a child there's just that wave of delusion. Like I don't know how to explain it, like it's not delusion, it's just kind of like, I don't know, there's just a wave of fantasy in the
Yeah.
world. Like you get older, then suddenly, like, I don't know, reality does hit a little different when you're older. So
It does.
yeah, so yeah, dude. I mean, I had my fair share of that, and I'm so grateful because like it was damn near like every time I would get into like, because one thing is I'm very picky. I've always been very, very picky. And so I'd always like, get into communication with people and with women because it was not hard for me to become friends with women, but I never found a lot of them attractive because I had also like I need beauty as well. Like you need to be
Mhm.
someone that I find physically attractive for me to also find you spiritually, emotionally attractive. So even if you were like one or the other, like you could be beautiful and an airhead and you're not it. And then you could be freaking the opposite of that. You know what I mean? Exactly what I'm looking for, but I don't find you physically attractive enough. Then you're also still like, just that's just the interest in my brain. And so whenever I found a combination of the two and it was someone I wanted to pursue, they're always growing up was that like, okay, let's see how this goes. And then there was always that form of a mental health issue. And I think it's also tragic. I don't want to speak on that too much because I don't know too much about it, but it's just like from my personal experience, it seems like a lot of very beautiful women who are growing up as children go through a lot of mental trauma, and they go through a lot of family trauma and a lot of experiences like that. And that's unfortunate. And so that was a lot of experience with a lot of my friends in like relationships or situationships, whatever it may be. And then I had my first real official relationship that was more long term. And that like trauma dump didn't unveil itself fully until like 6 months in. But um there's definitely some red flags that was things I'm not going to speak too deep because they're bad trauma and they're on her stories, not mine.
Mhm.
So I'm not going to speak on them. But like there were some red flags at the beginning that were like me figuring out, me trying to learn the can I fix this person or not type of mentality. Or it's like I love this person for who they are, but then like deep down 6 months later, then something really breaks in the system. So I was like in that experience. I was 14. I was 14.
That's
Um,
also something that you have to learn to navigate is that you have to realize that no one's going to be perfect. There's no such thing as the perfect partner, and that everyone's going to come with their flaws, and everyone's going to have some level of, I guess, baggage. Hopefully not, ideally not a lot, but you have to be real. You have to understand and figure out how to navigate that, and figure out, is this the person you want to spend the rest of your life with?
My brain is like, dude, not my wife. That chick's perfect, bro. I don't know what you're talking about. My wife that God is grooming for me right now. I have no idea what you're talking about. I'm like not relatable at all.
Well,
No,
I hope
that
she's perfect to you, perfect for you,
you
perfect
better
for
hope.
you.
Yeah, I need your help with the alignment, dog. I need your prayer on the alignment. That's crazy. Yeah, no, I agree though. I do agree, and I understand what you're saying because like I think I also said that to you, like that same comment.
Hmm.
Um, because it's real. Everyone has flaws, but it's learning how to like, do you love this person's flaws, and is this a flaw that you're willing to work around, versus flaws that you're not. Actually, I'll get into it, bro. This was so toxic that it was kind of like I remember. I remember
Actually, I'll get into it, bro.
a little bit.
Oh,
It's
the
like
shit's
some of my
changed.
trauma blocks are unveiling itself, and I'm starting to memorize that this relationship was a lot more hardcore than I actually was, like thinking about. And so, like for example, like I went through a lot from beginning to end, and this was 2 years on, 2 years off, and then 6 months back on. Okay, so that's what that was like. And honestly, me being 18 and like getting back in a relationship was just because of the fact that she was 18, and I was like, okay, maybe I, you know what I mean? Like that was the thing. So we started at 14, and it was just so traumatic and difficult, but it was genuinely built on love. Like it was like still like, but I was still not the kid that I was supposed to be because I never let that person go, knowing it'd be better for us both. I wasn't strong enough. I wasn't aware enough. I wasn't like in that identity yet. So it was more of like a hold on because I was more afraid of if I let go, not I wasn't as afraid of what would happen to me because I think I can self heal, as I always say, but I was afraid of what would happen to her. I felt like the world would die for her. You know what I mean? And I didn't want to do that to that person. I wanted to just kind of stick it out all the way to the bitter end. And I knew it was going to be a bitter end, regardless of whether we stuck together or not. Like we were just not molded. And so uh, I just remember that, always knew breaking up was the right thing. And we probably broke up like a gazillion billion times and then kept getting back together because we're dumb. And I'm dumb. I'm not gonna speak for her about it. I'm stupid doing that. And then same thing when I was 18. Like I was like, all right, I was a lot more less godly back then. I was more of like open, interested in multiple relationships at the time. And then she kind of ultimatumed me because we were talking again, and it was like you either like rock with me or you freaking keep going with other chicks that you're rocking with right now. And deep down, I wanted love. I didn't want, you know, I wanted love, like deep down.
Dude, I'm such a lover boy. Like I
Yeah.
and I feel that right now because I have, since I've been single, I have gotten a fair share of female attention over the past few weeks, of people reaching out who have found out, and whatever. And it's like you said, you're also pretty picky. So am I. Like I have to find this person not only beautiful, but I also like have to really like their personality.
Not an airhead.
Yeah. And I want to be able to have conversations with this person about like podcast and different like psychology, these different topics that I'm interested in. And it's hard to find people, especially females like that, who are interested in things like that. It's so it only narrows down my field of play. Um, but
Yeah.
yeah, that's the thing, is I've had this female attention, but it's like I don't want anything short term. I want someone who I can make my wife and love them forever and just give them everything and give them the
Yeah.
world. And yeah, I'm a lover boy, dude. I
Real
I will I will
authenticity.
say I will say that loud and proud. I am a freaking lover boy. Like I
Yeah.
just love so deeply, and I
You
can't
have a
wait to
you
have
have a good
that person.
relationship with your mom?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. We love our moms. We love our moms and we're treated right. So I get that for sure.
Yeah, but I guess while on the talking about relationships, and since I was just talking about like kind of I guess, qualities and like the attention. When you're looking for a partner, what are some attributes that you would look for?
See, that's a great question because it comes down to I would have never known that if I didn't go through that relationship. Because I now know exactly what I don't want in a person, just energetically, just emotionally, just spiritually. I went through all these different people in my first, like youth years going into 18 and 19. And since I went through all that experience, after you know, right when I turned 19, that's when I was like 100%. I know exactly, thank you to God, what I don't want in a woman. Okay. And so qualities of what I look for is very opposite of qualities that I don't and what I would not want for a woman or within a woman is somebody that likes to be chaotic over peace. Like someone who likes to like consistently breed chaos. I don't like somebody who does not communicate. I remember when I would tell her we need to start communicating and we need to like build this together. And I wrote in my like I told her like we'll start journaling and then we'll switch journals so we can start doing it. And I remember she agreed and we started journaling together. And I finished and I looked over and she couldn't even start her first word. Like she was so held back by like fears, traumas, and emotions that she couldn't even write one word on like starting something. And so I remember that. I also need someone who is healthy as a head over their shoulders, like a strong relationship with their family. So they like healthy relationship with parents, you know, at the very least, a healthy relationship with the father. Because if they have a healthy relationship with the father, they have a healthy relationship with a man. And that's important because that's going to breed a lot of success in the relationship in the future. And if it's a good dad, he's most likely going to also ensure that she knows uh, who to look for in a man before she chooses one. Um, Honestly, especially a father that's genuinely involved, because like if a father's genuinely involved, he'll be guiding. He'll be guiding and he'll make sure that he gives her proper advice on not making mistakes because there are a lot of females who fall to friends. They fall to friends. They go and do things with their friends, and then it turns into something where they just have a downhill spiral. So,
That's one thing that's always I having a good friend group is so important.
hmm
And that's one thing I've noticed a constant theme in a lot of relationships is a lot of guys tend to not like their girlfriend's friends. And what I've seen
yeah.
is that a lot of times the people that girls surround themselves are people who are like a yes men almost.
hmm
And so like a girl in your instance who doesn't have a good male role model in their life, they go to their friends for their relationship problems. And when you go to your friends for your relationship problems and all you're not telling you never tell them any of the good stuff. You tell them you bring them your problems. They're going to affirm those problems and think that you're and maybe she might not even the problems might not actually be the guy's problems. They might be something of her own doing that she just doesn't realize because she doesn't have anyone to call her out or give her that male perspective.
Exactly. Yeah.
And we something us as men and women have to understand is we are wired so differently,
Yeah.
so differently. And that's one of the things that came up in my previous relationship is the way we communicated. And the way she communicated and the way I communicated were completely different, but we thought we were communicating properly. And that's one thing that you have to have that conversation with and understand going into a relationship that you guys are different in so many ways. And there's going to be times where you don't understand each other and aren't on the same wavelength, but you have to learn to read each other and how each other work and how each other are wired. And the better you're able to understand the opposite gender's like functionality, the better your relationship in turn will end up being because you understand why the person is the way they are, why they think the way they do. And then you can kind of gear your conversations towards that in a way that they will understand in a way that will compute to them.
Yeah. And dude, another thing that's super underrated is like a lot of guys don't educate themselves on like a woman's like hormonal structures, like their cycles, um, what to do in certain seasons. Like that's also in alignment with the communication. So when their chick keeps changing hormonally and then starts going from like very lovey-dovey to like very like I don't want you around me or whatever it may be, like they almost don't know what to do. And so I think that's also important because like as a man, you still also gotta be like you gotta educate yourself on women
Hmm.
and you gotta educate yourself on how they operate. And so that's why it's also good to have genuine female friends. I think also as a man, it's very easy to fall into lust and like lustful addictions when you are around women. And so, like, what do I even mean by that? I'm not talking about like it's very easy to get into a hookup stage. I mean, like, there's guys who will be around women and all they can think about is like, what if, like, they get to
Yeah.
that mindset. But the reason why I bring that up is like, it's so important to learn how to actually have a genuine friendship with women. Um, and another thing that's also very important in terms of like qualities in a female is just having a godly woman, like someone who actually reads her Bible and actually like understands the word of God and has a genuine relationship, because those are the people that have high likelihoods of understanding like the same level of morale as what I would want to have. And then also a higher likelihood of not sleeping around and not experiencing, as many like sexual partners as much as possible so that they're keeping themselves as pure as possible, or they're having genuine real relationships with each individual as opposed to just moving around.
So, as men, we are called to lead. I have a question for you. Would you be willing um, to entertain a relationship with someone who is Christian but is like just getting into their faith and doesn't really know how to navigate their faith? And why I say as you as a leader is because what I've heard is that you as a man should be the one leading in that spiritual relationship, and you could be
Uh-huh.
and serving as almost like a guide in this if they're not as biblically equipped as you are. Would you be willing
Yeah.
to serve someone in that aspect who is kind of a little bit behind where you are in your spiritual journey?
If God says that's my woman, that's my woman. So, I mean, I'll give you an example of this, bro. I got a couple people on my team right now who are appointment setters, closers, and one of them is hardcore Christian and another guy is not hardcore Christian. Like he probably wouldn't even have said at all he was Christian. He probably would have never even talked about anything about God had I not led my business with Jesus Christ. Like my business is led with spreading to the public who Jesus Christ is. And that's a pillar. That's like in my values of my business. And so I bring that up because now just him being around us so much, he's ending all of his conversations with God bless you. He's like talking about in his daily routine, he's like, yeah, I definitely have to incorporate more praying into my daily routine. And I bring that up because I'm a leader in that business. And as a leader, I'm just leading by example and I'm just leading by living. And since I'm doing that, that person naturally being around me has such already natural growth and gravitation towards God more than I think he's probably ever had in a long time. And I think it would be the same thing in a relationship. And I'm more than happy to do it because at the end of the day, like I said, if that person is what God finds to be equally yoked as me, then she's already going to have the same qualities and capabilities and values that I had when I was a starting Christian. Because here's the thing, bro. I looked at every book. I looked at every book. I looked at every religion. None of them resonated with me. All of them didn't feel right. And then I got to the Bible and I opened up the book of Matthew. And I already been told read the Bible so many times with people, but I decided to read it for myself, not what they kept telling me. And I opened the book of Matthew, I read it, and I was like, I have no other choice but to believe Jesus is God. And everything that this dude has talked about is everything I'm already in alignment with. It was like everything I was searching for my whole life, just a confirmation that what I was craving was actually what God wanted, which is like all the different commandments that God wanted for us and how to be the person that you want to be. And that was what I learned. And I feel like that person, if that person would end up being my wife or someone who's a relationship and a partner for me, they would already be in that same arena before even opening that Bible.